So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Julian Hunt. He has been in the meeting right from the start of the meeting, so thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Hunt is a research scientist at the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia, and he's working on the so Dr. Hunt is working on the intersection of water, food, and energy interventions in Saudi Arabia. He holds a chemical engineering degree from the University of Nottingham, a DPhil from the University of Oxford, and has worked for 7 years at the International Institute for Applied System Analysis prior to joining the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. Thank you so much, Dr. Julian, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I work at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. Is a very, very nice place. Anyone that has the opportunity to come work here, don't think twice. It's a beautiful place. Saudi Arabia is a beautiful country. They are investing a lot of money in science and technology. So I'm going to talk about hydropower, but before I talk about hydropower, I have to clarify something. So this is the potential for hydropower globally, and this is what has been implemented in hydropower. So, for example, in North America, most of the potential has been implemented. In Latin America, there's still a lot to be implemented. In Europe, a lot of it has been implemented. In Africa, just a little bit. So what I'm trying to say is that nowadays, think tanks, many corporations say the hydropower is bad for the environment. They say this because Europe, United States, and Japan has already built most of its viable potential for hydropower. So it's bullshit. What they say is that, well, we already built, now let's brainwash everyone saying that hydropower is bad so that they don't develop their countries. Unfortunately, Africa was the continent which was left over with very few hydropower plants. And it's just fake news. It's like, do what I say, don't do what I do. The WWF, Greenpeace, and many lobbyists in governments, mainly like environmental agencies, they say that environmental hydropower is bad, but what they want is just to buy fossil fuels from the fossil fuels industry and sell resources back. So buy fossil fuels and give away its resources. So just want to clarify this. One of the projects I'm working actually is to take some of the water from the Congo River, which has huge amount of water, which is not utilized as resources, have transposed some of this water to the Nile basis, and then the river Nile will transport this water up to the delta of the Nile, which is in Egypt. And then from there, you can use this water for plantation. You can use it, you can distribute in this MENA region, which is very water scarce. There's a lot of hydrological potential in this area, which can be easily transported to the Nile, which is by the delta, Nile Delta. The availability of water is very small. So literally you need a dam to control the flow of the river flowing in this river, which then you have to pump the water into another reservoir and then another pumping station. and then you can transpose the water to this lake. I forgot the name of this lake. This big lake in the Congo River basin. Then from this lake, you can pump to the Victoria Lake. Of course, pumping, you need energy, but you can use these pumps for storing energy also during the day, solar power, and then you can better manage the grid. So actually the talk of this meeting is to talk about hydropower electric trucks. So I invented this technology. Normally hydropower is provided with dams and pipes and turbines, and there is a very high capital costs, but you can actually generate hydropower with electric trucks. So they just to drive a truck, empty truck up a mountain. The truck has two tons. It collects water. It goes down with 10 tons. So the weight increased 5 times. And then you transform the potential energy of the water into kinetic energy. And then you regenerate the battery by breaking the the trucks. So of course, this only works in roads where the slope is 10 10 degrees above. So it's not everywhere that it can be implemented, but this gives significant flexibility on hydropower generation. This is an example of truck. You can even have like autonomous trucks. You don't need to pay for the driver. You generate hydropower with trucks. And in the paper, I have done a very thorough methodology with many variables. And this is the global potential. This is actually the costs. So in Nigeria, for example, there are locations where the cost is $40 per megawatt hour, which is competitive with solar power. And the advantage of this is that it's a controllable source of energy because you have a battery. You can supply electricity whenever you need, the grid needs. This is the potential. So the potential for Nigeria is around 0.1 terawatt hour, maybe more, 10 terawatts hour of generation per year in Africa. So this is a graph showing the costs curve with the potential for different continents. Generating electricity with trucks is flexible, is an innovative solution. The cost can be from $30 per megawatt hour, which it can be even cheaper than conventional hydropower. But of course, you need mountains, steep roads. The potential for the technology can reach up to 5% of global energy consumption from 2019 with the estimates. Asia and South America are the continents with the highest potential. And when I published this, I was in IASA and they did a press release. And then I looked at the Google Trends after a couple of months, and you can see that there is a huge spike on people looking for electric trucks, which increased the interest on electric trucks on the day that the press release was made. I did an interview for NBC News about technology, and there were literally 200 to 300 news feeds about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hunt. If it's possible to share your screen again so that we can see some of the graphs that you were showing us and into the technology. I think that would be great because we missed that. If you don't mind sharing your screen again. Yeah, especially on the from the methodology and
Yeah, so
yeah.
the methodology, the truck is empty, goes up empty a mountain, fills up with water, goes down. That's the way it generates electricity.
So somebody asked, what's ETH? But I mean, it's in the presentation, electric truck hydropower. So
Yeah.
that was the question. How scalable is this?
Sorry?
How scalable is it in terms of the generation of power compared? I know you said it's a little bit comparable to solar, but how scalable is it in terms of
Yeah, so
the
like
output?
natural gas generation in the US is like 30 US dollar per megawatt hour. So it's comparable with that. So it's cheap. There are some limitations, of course, because I assume that the truck is operates autonomously. So there is no
Yep.
driver. But of course you need a driver, maybe three drivers, and that's gonna increase the costs. And of course today we don't have autonomous trucks working anywhere. But maybe in 5 years you might have trucks being able to drive itself up and down. Yeah, of course there are limitations, but that's the with the assumptions in the paper, that's it can be a competitive alternative.
You answered this question, but I'm just gonna ask again because in the Q&A it says that was the fuel cost of the truck.
I think the cost of the truck is something like 100,000 US dollars. Any other questions? Let me look for the
Yeah, so
paper.
it's yeah, the question is hydropower is often hailed as a clean energy source, so but its impact on water ecosystem and communities is not always positive. So in your view, how do you make hydropower more truly sustainable, especially in vulnerable regions, like for instance the coastal communities of Nigeria where water
Yeah,
is
so
scarce?
so that's what you said is what people say, but that's bullshit. Hydropower is good for the environment. Hydropower is good for the society, it's good for communities. You shouldn't say this. This is fake news just to keep Nigeria underdeveloped. I publish this because I'm a researcher, but this doesn't really make sense. You might as well just build a dam and put turbines and generate hydropower. But that's what my job is. I need to get money. But this makes sense some locations, like in Argentina and some other countries with very steep roads. But hydropower is much better than this, definitely. Just build a dam and
Yeah.
turbines.
So yeah, speaking of large dams, of course, when people think about hydropower, they imagine like very large dams, but can micro scale or small scale hydropower be a viable decentralized solution for off-grid communities? And if so, are there successful examples that we can learn
Yeah,
from?
it could be you drive up and down a mountain, and then you can supply a town with maybe 300 people. So the truck is 148 US dollars. The battery, no, 250 kilowatts hour. So 250 kilowatts hour is can power, for example, a house in the US for a week, maybe. So it's a lot of energy.
Okay.
In Nigeria, probably five houses, 10 houses for a week, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, well, it depends on on the energy usage, but now we can talk about energy storage. So, how can modern storage technologies complement hydropower to create a more resilient and flexible energy system, especially in regions with seasonal water flow?
Yeah, for seasonal water flows, you're gonna have to build large reservoirs. If not, you're gonna waste a lot of money building those dams. One option is to pump the water so that you don't need such a large reservoir, because when you pump, you need less area because you can pump up to 100 to 100 meters dam. So you build a big dam on the mountain and you pump, and then you store in a smaller area. If you build a dam in the river, then yeah, you're gonna flood a huge reservoir, and that might be a problem. You might have to need like 2% of the area of Nigeria to make a reservoir, maybe 10%. So that's a limitation. But there are options. If you don't do that, then it might not be the best solution. Might as well just put a lot of solar power plants and build batteries, and you're fine. Yeah, so I'm saying hydropower is a good solution, but you have to do it well, right? You have to. There are a lot of I'm from Brazil. There are a lot of hydropower plants in Brazil which were very badly designed, and they take up a huge area in the wet season. In the dry season, it's just a dead area. You have the river, and then like 15 kilometers from the river to the border of the reservoir is just a dead zone. That has a huge impact not only in the environment, on the society. Everything just stinks. It's a destruction. It's like a nuclear bomb. Every year they drop a nuclear bomb there. So yeah, there are these hydropower plants. They were very badly designed. So you have just to make sure you make a nice hydropower plant, right?
Thank you so much. So those are there are any questions? They're probably in the Q&A because of our time. One question, one suggestion from the audience is to one of them requested if they can have access to the if they're able to have access to the paper, to the full paper.
Yes, it's open source. It just
Okay,
writes
that's perfect.
Electric Hydropower,
Okay.
and if you have problems, just send me an email.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. I appreciate you, and thanks for coming. Um,